Japanese sake fermented with Vietnamese fruits, spring rolls with herbs from Trà Quế village, or clay pot rice made with ST25 rice and anchovies. These pairings might not be what you would expect, but Chef Tru Lang brings them together with surprising harmony. After years in Michelin-starred kitchens in the US, he came home to elevate local ingredients with a modern culinary mindset. His dishes blend Western techniques with traditional flavors, all with a focus on sustainability. This week on the Mic, we follow Chef Tru Lang's creative journey, where food and nature go hand in hand.
With nearly 20 years of experience as a professional chef and having worked in various restaurants across the US, Trụ Lang returned to Vietnam with a desire to create dishes that truly capture the soul of Vietnamese cuisine. He opened Mua, a small restaurant nestled in the 200-year-old vegetable village of Trà Quế, where seasonal ingredients are prioritized, natural flavors are embraced, and waste is minimized in an eco-friendly approach. Staying true to the farm-to-table philosophy, ingredients are picked fresh from the garden and cooked right away for diners, keeping all the freshness and nutrients intact. Thanks to this unique approach, Mua was featured by Condé Nast Traveler UK as a must-visit culinary destination in Hoi An, a small restaurant that fully embodies a green lifestyle, love for the land, and deep respect for Vietnamese food heritage.
I've always been interested in cooking with local ingredients, and the basic phrase for that overseas is farm to table. It's a very general phrase that you use to say like, oh, farm to table. You use stuff grown from the farm, and then you cook with it and stuff like that. But I think when I came to Vietnam, one thing that struck me was how that was both normal and very abnormal. I'll give an example. When I first came and I was explaining to my team here of cooks, and I was like, here's the idea for the new restaurant, because I was in charge of redoing this concept. And I said, it's going to be farm to table. We're going to use these garden ingredients and herbs and greens, and we're going to make dishes with them. And everyone looked at me, and they're all Vietnamese, right? And they're like, we do that every day. That's nothing special about that. And then I was like, yes, but how many restaurants do that? How many restaurants do that? And then they're like, oh, you're right. Rice, some of the best tasting rice I've ever had, and rice is tied so deeply into the history and traditions of Vietnam and the story of it. And yeah, so rice is one thing I love. I love Vietnamese rice. Vietnamese herbs, I absolutely am in love with Vietnamese herbs and the way they're used in cooking, cooked and raw and in different varieties of preparations. I've always loved nature, but I think Vietnam is stunning. Yeah, in its essence, in its kind of rawness, and it makes you, what made me hope that I could find some way to express how beautiful that is and help other people treasure it as well.
After more than 8 years living and working in Vietnam, Trụ Lang has been on a mission to create food that blends the spirit of Japan with the soul of Vietnam. At his restaurant, Mua, that fusion comes to life through everything from fruit-based Vietnamese sake to fresh spring rolls made with herbs picked right from the Trà Quế garden next door. Following a fusion cuisine approach, he focuses not only on flavor but also on sustainability. One of the key philosophies he embraces is zero waste, making sure nothing goes to waste. For example, the leftover sake leaves from the fermentation process, which are usually discarded, are creatively repurposed into new recipes, giving new life to what would otherwise be thrown away.
At the end of the day, I don't try to cook traditional Vietnamese food. I always think of it as, let's say, like creative Vietnamese, or even sometimes I think of it as regenerative Vietnamese in the sense that I try to find inspiration from nature itself or history and tradition itself. And then from there, find a way to express it in like a modern sense. So I think what comes out is a kind of like combination of all my experiences of cooking all over the world. We shouldn't forget our place in nature. And for me, I think the way I try to express that is through food, right? So that's why I name my concepts more. And the idea of like more now tuk nai, which is, basically whatever the season's offering is what we should eat at that time, right? And even for that, it's like you think about the time, but it's also place as well. Mỗi nơi sẽ có mỗi mùa. What you eat changes, based on not just the time of the year, but also where you are. And I think that also again ties into that experience-based kind of consumerism that people are seeking now. So it's just lucky, I think, that it's kind of connected. So locally here, I've worked with other organizations and other farms that do these pure permaculture models. And a lot of times they're planting, for example, like banana trees in tandem with a lot of indigenous and wild herbs. Permaculture is really about building a system of plants and life that kind of, again, is regenerative. It doesn't extract from nature, it takes and it gives. I think I love to see my teams and the people that I interact with and the community that's growing and the awareness that's growing, but particularly in the food and beverage, and more Vietnamese cooks and chefs and people discussing these ideas and being able to interact with the international community as well. I think for me, I try to be creative and always fulfill my own kind of creativity and self-expression. But I really love to see as well as all these cooks that have worked with me or chefs that I've collaborated with, being able to continue to grow the conversation about natural cooking.